Thank you for joining us on our journey here to preserve the history of mixed martial arts. When I wanted to take on this project, I needed help. I brought in one of my favorite matchmakers, Miguel Iturrate, and the MMA detective, Mike Davis. So to do this, we've been able to preserve history. Welcome and enjoy. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Excited to be back. It's been a while. I've been hiding out, doing lots of stuff. I'm letting the A-team take over. I'm just here when we get grade A, top, high-level talent like the guy we got, Matt Mitrione, had to join this one. So what's happening, Matt? Good to have you back on the show. LytesOut Podcast, man? Killing it right now as usual. How you been?
I've been living a dream, brother. I've been kind of trying to stay low myself, man, not do too much. But I got to tell you what we're doing tomorrow, though.
Here.
Jacob, my oldest son, Jonah, my middle child, and myself are heading up to Milwaukee, and we're going to a festival tomorrow. And you're gonna say, who's gonna headline a festival, Matthew? And I say, Rage Against the Machine, and then Run the Jewels.
Oh, no way!
So I'm going to see Rage and RTJ tomorrow.
Wow, that's big, man. Rage is back. That's right. It's like the first time they've toured in what, 10 years? I don't know.
In 11 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's huge. Now, are your boys big Rage fans? So do you make them listen to it? Be like, this is what you're going to be one day, son.
So I'll say this much. Jonah actually today was like, Dad, I was like, Jonah, if you don't want to go, it's no big deal. You know, I don't want you to feel pressure just to go with me. And he goes, Dad, I swear to God, no prompting. He goes, Dad, I feel like I wouldn't really be able to forgive myself if I missed a Rage show. And I was like, what, dude? Like,
well played. Well played.
He don't even listen to Rage that much. And he's like, I know, but I think it'd be a great show. And I was like, you're damn right, it's gonna be a great show. So
nice.
Watch your father get just blackout drunk, son.
Hey, don't worry about what's in that Crown Royal bag, kids.
Yeah. Hey, don't worry about the drinking. It's not gonna be the drinking, Mike. It's...
So there was a rumor of you trying to fill a spot of a boxing match. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, there's a little bit of truth to that. I when it came across the wire that that Fury had bailed on the Jake Paul fight, I was like, well, first of all, I know I'm not going to get it because I'm way too big and way too strong for Jake Paul. And I think he knows that. I think everybody that he fights knows that. That he only fights little kids. But I did my very best to work my name into that just because it would have been great. And I'm fat and out of shape. So like, it would be like a round and a half fight, you know, but there's a good chance I'd still sleep him in that round and a half, but I didn't get it. So I did try to fight Jake Paul, but I didn't get it. I didn't get a look in my direction, I don't think.
I mean, Matt, you know his MO. He likes to fight guys who's about 30 to 40 pounds bigger than, you know what I mean? And who are old enough. You got the old and retired part like me, yeah, but you're way too big for me. He'd be like, hold on. If you fought at 155, he'd probably take the fight. Not too big. You're 100 pounds too heavy.
It would have been cool, though. It would have been fun. And that would have been a hell of an opportunity, man. There was a time when Matt Apteker would put on some fights down in South Florida, and Jake Paul was there. And I ended up not going to the fights just because I can't remember, something came up. And I was wondering, I wonder if he was there in order to try to size me up and start kind of bumping some gums a little bit to try to work something out, like maybe in the future.
That'd been nice.
Yeah, but I'd love to slap him around. It'd be a good time.
You're kind of like a magnet for that type of behavior as well, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I think you draw a lot of people that are just always kind of, you're going on somebody's radar constantly.
Well, it's because I'm highly obnoxious, and I don't hide or try to disguise it in any way. And I think I embrace it. So if I'm the heel, I'll be the heel. I don't really mind. It's just whether people, like the fans, love it or hate it, but they are never indifferent towards me. And indifference is a killer, right?
So we're talking about being the heel and being the bad guy. In my opinion, the code of conduct policy of the UFC was actually started because that of yourself.
Might have been.
With Fallon Fox.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Where we left off against a freeze. On your last interview, we're starting in, I think it was August of 2013, where the owner of the company had to come out and make a statement in regards to that of yourself because of your social media.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even my social media. It was an interview I did, right? It was my interview with AH, Ariel Hawani. And what I said, like, like I said something that I felt was, I think that was a very controversial scenario all across the board. And I think that, what you say gets misinterpreted and then gets taken out of context. And if that's the case, then that's the case. And then, like, if you have a sentiment about it, like, hey, man, I'm not going to apologize for something I said because I felt correctly when I said it. But if you took it the wrong way or if it hurt your feelings, sorry about that. But so it's almost like a sorry, I'm not sorry kind of a position. But
well, I mean, I feel like in a way, it's not your job to say something not to offend somebody. It's like if your feelings get hurt by something I say, it's not really my fault. That's your interpretation. Because what you said, in my opinion, wasn't necessarily wrong. Basically, you're saying that the person it wasn't fair because he was doing damage to females.
And it wasn't medically disclosed. It was determined not to be medically relevant, which is asinine to me. But then again, that's California, right? And so
No, it was Illinois.
Huh?
It was Illinois.
I think he got his. I think the medical license was issued initially in California, and that's where it was deemed it wasn't medically relevant.
Oh, so they went to great lengths to kind of hide it.
Yeah.
Then
I could be. It was such a long time ago. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So in essence, Fallon Fox fought a whole bunch of somebody that transitioned to be a woman, fought other women without the knowledge of them knowing that Fallon at one point was on the other team.
31-year-old dude, yeah.
Did you get fined for that?
Kind of, sort of. I mean, like, I don't really know how the UFC played it. Like, I didn't get my locker room bonus from it. So, but then again, like, actually, I'll tell you, Chris, as I digress just a wee bit, Chris, you were right about contractual stuff with the UFC the whole time. And I don't know if we ever had this conversation, but like, I remember when Chris would be like, hey man, fight as hard as you can for your contract money, because we would normally, like, for the first, 5, 6, 7 fights in the UFC, didn't really care what the contract money was because you got locker room money. You got bigger bonuses in the locker room than your contract money was. And Chris is like, listen, I tell you, someday they're going to stop giving that away because they don't have to. They're not obligated to do it. He's like, so you're going to find yourself waiting on that money and it's not going to come in, and they're going to have you by the balls because you've been living on that extra money. And I was like, well, I guess that's a really good point. So Chris always told me, go fight hard for your contract money. Don't just count on them to be good to you all the time. And then lo and behold, they stopped giving that money out. And I found myself actually being like, hey man, like, hey Joe, Silva, hey Joe, where's the locker room bonus at? Whatever else. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what, did I not fight? Even though I won, did I not fight enough to entertain you, fight hard enough to do this? Like, how are you guys going to hold that back? Well, we're not contractually obligated to give it to you. Well, and I was like, wow, I'm so glad I'm a stickler and a dick about negotiations, because that otherwise I'd be begging like Oliver Twist, please, sir.
More, please.
Yeah.
That's why, you don't want to be at then you always have to be in their good graces. And that involves a lot of, let's say you did make the wrong comment. Now they're pissed off at you. You never know what that means, man. You can't be in that situation, man. I understand. I've been in both sides of it, and that's the only thing I'm good at is messing up and then figuring out, hold on a second, maybe I can teach people I've messed up. That's the only thing I'm good at.
Well, I hated your advice almost all the time.
Good.
Chris was telling you, don't get used to the bonuses while he was taking them all.
For real.
That dude stole one of mine. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Do you guys know this story about Chris?
I think I've
Chris
told
getting the bonus. Do you guys know this story?
Please tell us.
Go ahead.
Chris.
This is the worst story of all time. So we fight in Indianapolis, and Matt goes on before me, fights Joey Beltran. Great fight, obviously, 2 heavyweights with the distance because Joey just tough to knock out. So Matt, beats it, does a great job, but it's a good fight, because Matt was able to hit him a lot. And he doesn't go down. So I'm like, all right, damn, that's a good fight. So then I fight Matt and Sarah, kind of the same thing. Just a tough ass guy. So afterwards, I remember I'm excited. I'm walking through the back hallways, and some guy walks up and says, Chris. Kind of walked up almost like a drug dealer. I got something for you. Like, sweet, we got it. And he handed me an envelope. And I looked at an envelope, opened it, $70,000, 5 to 9. He's like, good job, man. I was like, yes. So I go home later on. I talk to the wife. I'm like, hey, man, we got the bonus, the $70,000. She's like, yes. So then I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. And I get up and like my phone rings. I kind of look at it.
So we fought on a Saturday.
Yeah. So this is Sunday morning. So the guy calls me. It's like a 7:02 2 number. I know it's Vegas. So I was like, all right, I answered. He's like, Chris, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm just going to say, I thought you won the fight of the night and you did not. And so there's about a 5-second pause. And he goes, we're going to need that check back. And I go, man, I already cashed it. And he goes, Chris, it's Sunday. I just started laughing. I'm like, all right, you got me. And he's like, so we're gonna cancel payment on that. I was like, all right.
I got it, buddy.
And they gave it to Matt.
I got it.
That's my point. He stole my fight. It was mine. I was at least happy he got it though.
And what's even funnier is that guy ended up being my accountant right now. So the guy who switched it up, I ended up throwing it back to him anyways.
Would they use the locker room bonuses as leverage for like your contract? Hey, sign for lowers. We're going to take care of you. Would they do that?
I'm sure they did for quite a few people, but like, I never let that happen because Chris was talking to me about it. And like, I always was pretty active in my own negotiations. So, but I'm sure that was probably a point of contention for the people that were trying to negotiate hard.
Yeah. Chris, when he said to you, it's Sunday, you can't cash a check, you should have said, yeah, no, I know it's Sunday. That's why I just came back from the riverboat. And on the casino, they would certainly cash that thing for you. So please, for next time, Chris, for next time.
Well, yeah, I've learned, man, I don't know. That was a next time. There won't be a next time. But if it was, I've been like, no, you gave this to me. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're fighting over this. Just as your mistake, coming out of your pay. When
I was in Mohegan one time, where would we fight Mohegan? When I was in Mohegan one time, we got that the bonus check, or we got a check for the COVID fight, March 13th, right? The one I was supposed to fight that Brazilian dude in. And I hadn't trained at all. I wasn't ready for it at all. Like, just took it because I wanted an extra paycheck. And we're getting ready to go fight. It was that, you weren't there, were you, Chris? You couldn't get there, right?
No.
Yeah. So it was like 4 hours before fight time. I get a phone call that says that the fight's been canceled. Come down and collect your paycheck. And I was like, sweet, sounds great. So I'm down there and I'm like, listen, if the whole world's about to shut down, I'm not going to trust what's going on. So I went to the casino and I cashed my check in the casino. So what you're saying is absolutely they did. They cashed my check there.
Yep.
Nice.
Chris, you still have that check?
I had a couple of nefarious Russian bosses that, worked in cash better too. So you know what I mean.
No, I don't have the check.
Oh, that'd be a good one to have.
Yeah.
So Matt,
September
21st, you have a friend in Brendan Schaub. There's been some, I don't know if it's a misunderstanding, but it was kind of a blowout over social media because he requested to fight you. At least that was what was perceived. You guys fought September 21st, 2013 at UFC 165. What happened to build that fight up?
Well, so what's interesting is that, Chris is really familiar with this. Like, Brendan didn't ask to fight me and I didn't ask to fight Brendan. Like, Joe Silva just cooked that up on his own. Like, it wasn't legit at all. It was just a hustle. And we both, as soon as I got the phone call, I called Brendan and Brendan's like, dude, that's not true. They told me you said the same thing about me, whatever else. So we're like, well, if that's the situation we're in, then we have to go ahead and scrap. We have to go ahead and fight. So we ended up fighting. We were like, listen, let's just build it up. Let's not take anything personal. Let's do whatever else. But it was really difficult for me to fight Brendan. I couldn't pull the trigger on him. I felt like he had been, knocked out pretty bad a couple of fights, like 3 out of the last 4 fights he had before that or something like that, maybe 3 out of the last 5. Excuse me. And it was pretty difficult for me to go ahead and lighten him up because I felt like if he was already starting to get damage in his head, then I was only going to magnify it because I punch differently than the rest of those guys do. And it really was hard to scrap him, hard to fight him, man. Really hard.
Did you talk to Joe Silva about this?
No, I talked to Joe Silva about everything. I was never shy to talk to him about stuff.
What was his reaction?
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, I would never do such a thing.
Was he just a snake or what?
I mean, everybody has their own definition of a snake. But I mean, if you're a promoter and a matchmaker, that's your job, is to be a snake. Get people to say yes to a scrap. That's your job.
So you trained at the Blackzillians. What was it like? What was it like training over there?
It was cool, man. It was very talented, right? Like, there were times when like I was by far the worst stand-up guy that was 205 pounds or better. I mean, there were some people there that were just like Alistair Overeem and Tyrone Spong were having sparring sessions, and Thiago Silva and myself and a guy named Guto Innocent and Rico Verhoeven and Philip Verlander and Nikki Holtz, and like all these people were like are just in there, and all these Dutch people I've never even heard of before, and like all these other people are coming in that are like so incredibly talented that I'm in there like, dude, I almost wish it was a grappling day, just so I'd get my ass kicked in a safer way. Like, I mean, Anthony Johnson, Rashad, like, I mean, they were like literally some of the most dangerous strikers in the world were in the room on a daily basis. And like, I remember one day I went in there for grappling, like Grappling Tuesday or something like that, maybe Grappling Wednesday. And like, there were probably 50 people on the mat. And out of those 50 people, I think probably like, if I remember, because I think I counted, I think it was like 21 of them were black belts. And out of the 21 that were black belts, like 7 of them were in the world's top 10, like Buchecha, Braulio Estima, Pablo Popovich, Cyborg Abreu, and like they're like 3 understudies. And like it was like all these people were like, dude, what? Okay,
wow.
So, yeah, like so it didn't matter what you're doing. Like everywhere, literally everywhere you went, you just fought some of the best in the world. You grappled some of the best in the world, wrestled. Like there were like times when like Jordan Burroughs caliber people would just be walking in and be like, all right, I guess we're going to wrestle this Olympian, this All-American, and whatever else. It just happened all the time.
Did you roll with Cyborg?
Yeah, dude. So the first time I ever rolled with Cyborg, I didn't know who he was. And then,
oh my God.
And I had no clue who he was. And actually, this is right after I fought
found out.
This is right after I fought Kimbo Slice. And I went down there, and there was a guy named Dennis something. They call him Clean.
Dustin Dennis.
Dustin Dennis, that's right. Dustin Dennis, Clean. And so he was training up in Indianapolis, American Top Team for a little while. So I was going down there. I was going down to South Florida and training with Clean. And then Clean brought me over to Cyborg's joint. And I knew Cyborg had a gym, but like in my mind, like I'd never been out of the state of Indiana. So like black belts are like James Klingerman, you know, it's like, sweet, sounds great. Let's go grapple, you know? And so like, I didn't know that there was like a caliber of like black belts, and like, then there's like real black belts. And like, I didn't know that. So I went down there and he was teaching some class, and I was like, oh, cool, man. So like, hey, you want to grapple? Yeah, sure, man. And it's like when I was like young in my grappling game. So I was like doing like these inverted sweeps and whatever else is, you know, and he kind of like humored me by to let me take him down in a way. And dude, I must have gotten tapped 17 times in 5 minutes. Like I had no idea what I was getting my ass kicked into. And I was so like, I thought I was actually decently okay at grappling. And then like I got handled so badly, I went back and I still didn't know his name. I still didn't know it was Cyborg Abreu. Had no clue. I just knew his name was Cyborg something in South Florida. And I went back to Milwaukee to go train for my next fight with Joey Beltran or something like that, I think. Yeah, I think it was Joey Beltran. And it was freaking, no, it wasn't. Who was it? I don't remember. Whoever fought third, can't remember. Well, anyways, and then, and I told Red Schaefer, because Red Schaefer was, I was like, Red, I got to tell you the story, dude. This guy kicked the shit out of me, man. Like smoked me, blah, blah. And he goes, dude, that's Cyborg Abreu. He's supposed to kick the shit out of you. Like he's top 5 in the world. And I was like, thank God. Like, thank God that's what happened. And I just
arguably number 2 in the world. Yeah.
Mike, wow. I got to tell you, funny story here is when people don't understand, when Matt first started fighting, like he's in the Ultimate Fighter house and they're talking about fighters like, yeah, when Randy Couture did this, all of a sudden Matt was like, who's that? Like people thought he was joking. He was not joking. He didn't know any of these fighters. So this isn't anything new.
They would get so pissed because like all these people knew who Roy was. And I had no clue. It was like, who this fat dude over here is like, he's supposed to be that good? Like, no way. And they'd be like, dude, for real. This is legit. Like, only guy I knew was Kimbo, because Kimbo was on the internet. That's it.
It's really the only guy that mattered. I mean, they had him eliminated the first show, and then they teased everybody throughout the entire season because he was Mr. Ratings.
Well, you know, for sure. And like, you know what's interesting? I can't believe they let Roy and him fight that early.
He used a contract.
Well, it might have, maybe, possibly.
They were scared. Like, they were scared that Kimbo would, get to cash in his contract.
Well, maybe, but you know, who knows? I'm sure Kimbo probably had a guarantee anyways. He just had to show he would do it. And I remember hearing the stories about Ken Shamrock and Kimbo when they fought on, was that Elite XC, the one that broke Elite XC?
Yeah.
I remember hearing the stories about that and what Ken Shamrock found out that Kimbo was getting paid and all those semantics and shenanigans that went on after that. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And that's when Seth Petrozelli fought Kimbo and knocked Kimbo out.
So to kind of set the table on that, at the event, Ken finds out that Kimbo's making a couple $100,000, which is more than what Ken is making.
Mm-hmm.
Ken decides to grapple, but people believe he bladed in order to screw up the main event and get his show money because he was mad.
Yeah, because he actually, well, I heard from good source that he told him, he's like, hey, listen, you guys have until an hour before fight time to come double my purse because I know what Kimbo, because they gave him like some kind of contract and it was Kimbo's contract, so he saw how much money he was getting. And he was like, listen, if you guys don't at least double my purse, I'm not doing it. And they're like, you have to. It'll be breach of contract. We'll sue you. We'll own everything that you are. Okay, cool. Oops, he got cut.
He got cut grappling.
Yeah. Oops.
Petrozelli steps in, knocks out Kimbo's slice, and Gary Shaw loses his entire business after that.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it, man?
Wow.
You know, I interviewed Ken, and it was kind of like, you know, reeling him in. I hit him with that question. He's a true sociopath. Like, he lied his way to where he believes his lie, and everybody knows the situation. Everybody knows
that, man. Yeah.
What happened. Yeah.
Well, you know, like,
so after Brendan Schaub,
he couldn't be Ken Shamrock if he wasn't Ken Shamrock.
Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So Brendan Schaub, how do things kind of clear up afterward? I know you guys are pretty good friends again.
We're friends now. It took a long time, man. It took a long time. Like, I was uncomfortable around him. Like, hell, I was really good friends with Ryan Bader. Really good friends. Like, when I would go to Phoenix, I'd call him, and I still don't talk to Bader. And it's not because I'm not mad at him. It's just weird. Like, Chris, was it weird when you fought Matt Serra the first or the second time?
Yeah, but I mean, we've gotten past that, right? I mean, we never really, I haven't say got past it. There's never a problem. It was just, I don't like it. I don't like fighting friends. You know what I mean? It's something you have to do, but it's just a weird position, man. I mean,
I'm not good at fighting friends. If I don't know you, I couldn't care less about you. But if I know you, I just can't do it. It's
a weird dynamic, man. I remember I've had to do it probably 3 or 4 times. It never gets easier. You know what I mean? But
yeah, it
feels weird in there. But like I've had a pretty good ability afterwards to be like, hey man, you know, help them up. It's cool, whatever. But it's rough.
You're going out doing like podcasts with Brendan as well now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually, he asked me to go do it this past weekend for the July 2nd card. Thank God I didn't go to that one. That would have been miserable, pulling teeth to all those last 2 fights. Good God.
Man, you see that? You see Chris Pratt kind of came out and they pulled him to the side, right? What do you think? He was like, man, this guy talks this big game, but then he goes up there and plays patty cake. I don't like it, you know, and then he apologized later, but it's like, he's just saying what people think, you know what I mean? It's like, if you don't talk like that, I mean, I don't know. That's to me my problem. I know everybody loves the big fights, but to me, a lot of times they're not that good, man. I mean,
too much pressure on them, man. Too much pressure. Yeah, everybody's too careful.
You can't lose. It's all about you can't lose. And then you fight like Floyd Mayweather because you're afraid to lose. I want to see Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward fight every time and beat the brakes. I want Robbie Lawlor versus where the guy. I mean, they're just
versus Chris Lytle.
Well, that too, but no, just his last fight. The last fight he had was fun to watch.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, Robbie's always fun to watch. You know.
Yeah.
Like, Robbie doesn't know how to fight safe at all.
No, exactly. So that's why I like watching fight. I don't want to watch
Robbie was going to retire after that one. I thought Robbie was going to lay him down.
Yeah. Man, I don't think the human body is meant to fight for over 20 years. That's just my thought.
That's a long time, brother.
Did you work out with Robbie at the Blackzillians?
Yeah. So like, go ahead.
What did he say the reason was he left American Top Team was?
They did, just some internal dispute. But like Coach Kami came over, Nick Lentz came over. There was a handful of ATT guys for quite a while that were over there. And I think that Robbie has a very graceful, casual, nonchalant approach to practicing and training. He's intense as all hell, but he lets his body rest. He listens to his body a lot. He doesn't spar with people he doesn't know. He doesn't get punched for no reason. He's very intelligent. He only has very specific and trained sparring partners. But Robbie busts his ass. And it's cool to see him mentor a lot of the younger guys. He's very, very good at it.
Good.
Your next fight is March 1st, 2014 in China. You got Shawn Jordan from the American Top Team.
I did, Shawn Jordan. You know, it was funny. Like he was the first lefty I fought, I think. And then when I fought him, it was strange because I knew like everybody's like go circle, like, you know, circle the outside, whatever else. And then I was like, you know what? Let's switch this up. And I just like a week before we started circling the opposite direction, and it ended up paying us dividends. It made it so much better for us because like it really opened up the low kick, opened up my straight left on him, and he was durable, but I could tell that it was going to finish him quickly. I could tell that he wasn't in the mix for a long time. And actually, we have a great story about that fight, as a matter of fact.
Well, actually, go ahead.
Did you know him from your football days? Because
What's that? No, I didn't know. I didn't know who he was.
he had like a pretty good run at LSU, I think.
He was a fullback.
college.
He was a fullback at LSU.
Yeah, so like he was a pretty high level college player.
Yeah, he was a pretty accomplished man. So
So
Chris,
it's a pretty
go ahead and
funny
tell them the
story.
Oh yeah. Well, first what I was going to say was that's funny. Like right, I never had this happen before. We're in the locker room warming up, you know, and like okay, so not really warming up much. Mike's supposed to start in like an hour.
Oh, I forgot that was this fight.
And so like
totally
okay,
forgot.
in an hour the fight's gonna, you know, so we're not really doing much, and then all of a sudden they came and they go.
Remember we told him, we were like, hey, there's a lot of time in between this fight and we only have one more to go. It's like, we're all supposed to fight in an hour and a half, and there's only one more fight on the card. And they're like, trust me, you're not going to fight. Like, the time's already set. You're not going to fight. All right, cool. So we're just laying around bullshitting. So we're in the locker room and we're just chilling. They're like, dude, trust us. You have this much time. They're going to do filler. They're going to do whatever else. All right, cool, man. So we weren't doing anything. We were just literally laying around the locker room, not doing anything, not warming up, not even, I don't even think my hands were wrapped. Then they come in like, dude, you're fighting in 12 minutes. Get wrapped. What? Yeah, get wrapped. All right. Okay, cool. So we get wrapped. We warm up for probably like 25 seconds, 30 seconds, and we go out and scrap. So that's like, I totally forgot that was that fight. And I'd never had it happen before. Like it was like a swing bout almost.
That's kind of like a traditional boxing move to kind of intentionally screw somebody over.
Oh, it was pretty wild, man. Like, actually, I have another story about that. But I'll tell you about this one here in a second. That so we're warming up. So we did the weigh-ins, right? So we go to the weigh-ins, and they're like in this big old arena, and they sequester everybody else off, and all like the coaches and the trainers and the fighters, whatever else. And Chris and Coach Pat are like, hey, man, there's a bar right over there. We're going to be here for hours and hours. We're going to go over this bar that's still in the arena. We're going to go over this bar here and grab a couple of beers. All right, sweet, man, no problem. See you guys in a little bit. So I think I'm over there with Ed, one of my buddies. I can't remember who I was with somebody. I might even been alone. And then Chris and Coach Pat are gone for like an hour and a half. Then they come back over and they're kind of stinking like liquor. They're kind of drunk a little bit, you know, like giddy, loud, kind of drunk. And I'm like, hey man, what's going on? Like, I'm about to walk out there, about to do this thing. And they're like, okay, well, we'll be here in a minute. And then they're like, oh, everything's back on pause again. You're not about to walk out. We have to go down this thing and wait a little while. Give like another 30 minutes. Okay, cool, man. So they go back out and grab a couple more beers, right? So they've been drinking for like 2.5, 3 hours at this point. And so then they finally come back. I can't remember who walked on the stage with me. I don't know if it was Chris or Coach Pat or somebody else. I don't remember. It was against Shawn Jordan. Shawn Jordan. So I don't remember who it was. And then we get back to the hotel a little bit later on, you know, like, I don't know, an hour later. So they had not drank for like an hour, where they had been drinking European beer. So they were pretty tore up. And I wanted to warm up a little bit just because I've been sitting around for so long. So I go down there and I warm up and I'm like, hey, Chris, I know we've been drinking, but let's just kind of move around a little bit. Let me kind of do some movement, some space, some distance stuff, whatever else. And Chris is fucking blasted drunk. And he starts raging, dude, like throwing bombs and haymakers and like scrapping, like going hard. And I'm like, yo, and we have no gloves on. We're just moving. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So I like literally had to sit back and be like, bop, and stick Chris in his face, like steal on him in his face, like right in his eye. His like eyes swole up, his mouth is swole up, his lip is bleeding. And I was like, yo, calm down, man. What are you doing? So the next morning, so we're done. Obviously, after Chris is bleeding, we're done. Like next morning he wakes up, he's like, dude, why does my face hurt so bad? Like what went on? I'm like, dude, are you serious right now? Yeah. Let me tell you what you did last night, Chris. And then, so I told him all about it. He had absolutely no recollection of it whatsoever. Went out there. Then that's when that happened with the, with not knowing we were going to fight. That's what happened. And then we ended up going out there and beating what was his name?
Shawn Jordan.
Shawn Jordan. And then we didn't want to go home. We're like, fuck it, man. We just got a bonus because we got a knockout bonus. Like, let's go to fucking Thailand, man. So we just jumped a flight instead of going back home. We just jumped a flight to go to Thailand.
That's the way to do it.
Oh my God. I'm sure your wives were really happy about this.
Was bananas, dude. Like it was in Pattaya. So like Pattaya is where like they filmed The Hangover, like Walking Street. So that was Pattaya. So like it was like me, Chris, my fat friend Wood, and another dude. And like, hey, do you guys have, you know what? Let me pull this up on my phone so I can show you what I'm talking about here. Because this is worth the end of this conversation. So we fly into Bangkok, and they're having these political protests in Bangkok. And so there's like 4 of us, big old dudes, you know, and we get in there, we're getting ready to go through like the visa line or immigration line or whatever. And the guy's like, hey, where are you guys going to go? And I'm like, oh, honestly, man, we don't know. We're just going to walk around, find a place to stay. We're going to go chill. And he goes, no, you're not. And I was like, well, what do you mean, man? We're just going to do that. And he's like, yeah, we're having these protests here. You guys aren't going to say that. He's like, by the way, who's are you guys? And I was like, oh, me and these 3 back here. And he's like, you and those 3. Yes. You 4? Yes. You and these 3 right there. Yes. You guys are going to Pattaya. Okay, great. I have no idea what Pattaya is. I've never heard of Pattaya. I don't know anything about Pattaya, right? So we go get in this taxi, and it was like just a regular little 4-door car. My buddy Wood is 6'5", 395 pounds. He is huge. And another little dude in the car, and then sitting shotgun and Chris. So like 4 of us in this little tiny car, and we drove for like an hour on like the highway system over there. And they're like, dude, they're going to kill us. Like they're going to come, they're going to throw us in a ditch. They're going to take all of our IDs, our passports. They're going to kill us, man. Like, and we're driving. And I'm starting to get nervous myself. Even Chris, who's fearless or oblivious, one of the 2, is getting nervous about what's going on. So they finally get off this road, and we're like going off in these 3rd world shanty towns, like chickens in the street, shacks, like cloth doors, like all this stuff. And then all of a sudden we end up at this like beautiful, like island peninsula, like bay. There's all this beautiful water. And I'm like, oh, we gotta be there, man. We gotta be there. And then while we're pulling up, the taxi driver's like, he's like, hey man, where you guys gonna stay at? And I was like, dude, not this again. We don't know where we're gonna go. And the dude sees 3 dudes in the car all packed together. And we're like, we're all comfortable. So like hugging on each other, whatever else, our arms are close. And he's like, okay. So he takes us to the heart of Boys Town. Okay. And he drops us off in this hotel. Now, the hotel is called the Penthouse Hotel. Okay. So hold on a second. If I could, I would do this, but let me do this here. Penthouse. I'm going to find it because it's that good. Penthouse Hotel. I promise it's worth this in Pattaya,
P-A-T-T-A-Y-A. Mike, on this podcast where we chase stories, so Matt, take all the time you need. Tijuana's got a great set of stories. I think we're going to be in that neighborhood right now, Tijuana style story, Mike, coming right up.
Yes, you are. So, hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. All right, so this is so we walk in there and I'm like, hey man, let's do this. Why don't you guys go ahead and give me your penthouse? Because we have 4 of us. And they're like, hey man, the penthouse only fits 2 people per, so you have to do 2 penthouses. All right, bet, it sounds great. They're like, well, there's 5 penthouses on the top floor. All right, great, sounds good. Sight unseen, let me get them. So I'm like, all right, it sounds great, man. So we walk upstairs to the first room, okay? And this is, there we go. This here is the first room we walk into. You ready for this?
Oh my gosh.
You see that?
Yeah,
it's like a mini strip club.
Dude, there's dildos on the wall. There's like sex swings everywhere. There's like all this craziness. And I see those lights and I'm like, hey, dude, I'm going to kill somebody if I stay in here. Like, there's no way that I can have those lights on in my bedroom. There's no way. That's where we ended up staying in that room. Like that one and another one that looked almost just like that, but not a psychedelic. It looks like Ronald McDonald ate a bunch of acid and then puked everywhere and then colored in his puke.
Yeah, no.
That's the room that we stayed in. It was absolutely bananas.
There's dildos affixed to the wall.
Dude, they were wooden. They were floppy. I mean, it was everything you could possibly imagine. It was insane. Insane.
Mike, just like you, Mike's booking a ticket to Thailand right now.
He got me a floppy.
It was incredible, dude. Like, it was like something I could never even have imagined if I didn't know about it. And it was on top of a brothel. And I was like, dude, I can't just, nope.
That's wild. I heard at Pattaya, they said it's the main industry there. It's just,
dude, it's everywhere. It's like being in the internet. That's what it is. You're in the internet.
Huh.
Yeah, anything goes kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for somebody that's just, kind of walked off the football field into the cage, at this time, you get the highest striking differential in heavyweight history at plus 19%. And you've got 10 fights in the UFC. Yeah.
I didn't really find the transition to be that difficult because they I mean, let's be totally honest, they spoon-fed me. They could have given me, well, there weren't a whole lot of wrestlers back then, right? There weren't like a lot of college All-Americans. It's more like the tough guy, right? And I'm way more athletic than any tough guy. But a collegiate wrestler that's very accomplished has a completely different skill set than an athlete, right? It's a completely different and developed skill set. And I didn't really, I never got a flavor of that really like kind of until later on. But like, I felt like I was successful and I lost because of mistakes. That's why I say like, I don't ever feel like I got outstruck and my ass whooped. I felt like I made some mistakes. I think like Roy knocked me down, was the first guy to knock me down and he won from that. And like, but other than that, like it was a bunch of learning curves. It was a bunch of learning experiences. I had a really good time. But then like the older I started to get, the more I started to realize that, that I was causing more damage than I was causing permanent damage to other people. And that made me feel pretty damn guilty, to be honest. Like I would have people come up and be like, dude, I don't remember. I have memory problems after our fights, whatever else. Are you having those too? No, I'm not. Like, and I started like bothering me. Like, they're like, hey man, I'm forgetting this. I hear stories about, hey, this guy's having a lot of mental issues now. And it just really caused me significant problems over it, bad stuff. And that's when like it started being like, it was much more difficult to pull triggers and hurt people.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also were kind of like a magnet for like bizarre instances in your career. And it really starts with UFC 175, July 5th, 2014. You were fighting Stephan Struve. Yeah. Why don't you walk us through what took place?
Oh, I forgot Stephan was down there too. Struve was down at the Blackzillians. He was in there too. Like, yeah, man, totally. That was nuts. We were warming up. We were ready to whoop him. Like, we were gonna hit him with a high kick to start the fight, right in his mouth. Put my toes in his face. Like that was part of the plan from the jump. Like to let him know, no matter where he went, how tall he wasn't safe. And we knew that he would bail out head over heels, so he would be off balance quite a bit. We knew that too. So we had a good game plan. Like a 1-2-2, but the second two was a step and a half in, was like a shift step, and we knew that we'd land a big overhand on him or a big straight. So jab straight, shift step, big straight overhand right again. Almost the same thing that we were doing on Travis Browne. It was a very similar series, and we knew that it was going to land. We just knew it. I felt like I would have whooped him, but who knows? He was really good on the ground. That cat is so long from training with him. He's so long and has so much leverage in positions you would never expect him to have leverage in. It's crazy. Grappling him is an unpleasant experience.
So Stephan passed out backstage, and he battled a lot of mental issues as well, physical issues with his heart.
Yeah.
When did they tell you that your fight was canceled?
Well, they have a video of it. They came in, and they were like, hey, dude, like it was like I was warming up. So like, I usually don't warm up until like 20, 15, 20, 30 minutes, maybe 30 minutes before a fight. Like I'm usually sleeping or doing something else. And it was weird. Like it was, they came in and said it and I was like, how's he doing? You know, like what's going on? Can I go talk to him? And then he was crying in the back, crying in the shower. And I was like, dude, don't worry about it, man. Like handle your own business. Don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. But that affected him drastically. It changed who he was. But it was weird. Like Struve is exceptional. And he uses his distance so well in practice. And he's so long and he's impossible to touch. I mean, it is just a bitch of a mission to get a jab in or a punch in on him in practice. But when he fights, it seemed like he didn't fight as long as he was. And it seemed like he would almost grow impatient with his jab and want to get up on somebody and probably just grapple. But I mean, dude, he was so good at grappling that he could just kick the crap out of people. And like, if he got a hold of them, they almost didn't have a chance.
Yeah. He actually retired, unretired. I mean, he's a warrior, man. I really respect
and he's such a good dude. Struve's a dope dude. He's a really good person.
Derrick Lewis is on an 8-fight win streak. He's 11-2 with 11 finishes. He decides to call you out. You guys fight September 5th, 2014 at UFC Fight Night.
Yeah. I was so offended that he said my name and said it incorrectly. I was at that fight because I was supposed to fight Struve the night before. And so we got paid. I got paid both my show and my win. And Chris and I were out there. What's that?
Shit, show and win for Struve.
Right? And I didn't even fight, so it wasn't that bad. And so Struve gets paid, I get paid. And we're out there drinking and partying. We're out and watching the fights. And Derrick Lewis beats our teammate, a guy named Guto Innocent, beats Guto, grabbed a hold of him and slammed him on the ground and kind of mollywopped him a little bit. And after he beats Guto, he calls me out by name. And I wasn't listening because I don't really care, you know. And then everybody started looking at me and they were like, he just called you out. So I stood up on the chair and I gave him the finger and I was like, cool, sounds great. And then from that point on, like I knew we practiced so much. Like here, I did this camp here in Indiana, and I was talking so much shit that whole camp because I was so offended that dude said my name. I was so offended. Like, how dare you try to say my name? I don't even know who the hell you are, you know? And I wasn't worried about how big he was or how strong he was or the fact that he had tattoos everywhere, that he was black. I couldn't care less. And so I told him, I'm going to stand over your unconscious body after I knock you out. And I think he probably thought I was playing. And so once I knocked him out, I stood over his unconscious body. Look, I made sure he knew, you don't say my name in public. What's up, Christopher? We're talking about Derrick Lewis.
Yep, I remember that.
So that's what I did. So once I knocked him out, that's what I did. I stood over the top of him because he shouldn't have said my name.
He became a big star after that.
Yeah, he did. Well, he's got a fun fighting style. You know, he's not a punk. I like Derrick. I think Derrick's a good dude. I think he's an entertaining fight and he's got a great personality. I'm just a man. So if you say my name, I'm gonna let you know why you shouldn't do that.
He's got one of the best Instagrams. Like if you guys are fight fans, he's got a wild Instagram.
Yeah, I hear it. It's great.
Yeah. At this time, you're with Paradigm Management.
Was I with what's his name?
Ollie.
What's his name?
Ollie
Attar.
Yeah. How was your experience with them?
How's your experience with any management company for the most part? You know, actually, that's not true. I got along great with Matt Mitrione. And I really had a great time with him. But with Ollie or like with Malky or with Brian Butler or with whomever, I find they're all the same way. They overpromise, they underdeliver. There's not a lot of character there. I felt in some situations. I just didn't necessarily I wasn't. It was okay. I was more destined to manage myself and have a lawyer on retainer. That's what it was for. Because I'm too stubborn, right? I'm too intelligent to let other people handle my money, and I'm way too stubborn to let other people handle my money.
Matt did catch early in his career the beginning of the POV. So that's how.
Actually, that's probably the biggest reason because I learned so much about the POV. And I came from the NFL, which is like unscrupulous management isn't allowed. Like they have to take all these tests and like, but then people are still so dumb that they still hire the same agent and financial advisor. Like, who the hell does stuff like that? I was watching this thing the other day, Christopher, with this dude. He was an NFL guy, and he's like he was a receiver. I'm trying to remember his name right now. And his manager or his agent, and it was his financial advisor, and he took everything he had. He's like, I had to completely reinvent myself. I was like, dude, how do you let that happen? But then again, like, it happens a lot, right? Everybody's got a Ponzi scheme, and everybody's got a hustle. It's whether or not you fall for it.
There should be a study on guys that just hypnotize other human beings to give them everything. It's truly fascinating.
What's that movie? Is that where the dude, like, there's like a street hustler, and I can't remember. I can't even begin to describe it. But like it shows how some dude gets hustled, and he's like, he thought he was a hustler and a swindler, and he got hustled by this other situation. I can't remember what it was. It was a financial. Had John Leguizamo in it, didn't it? And John Leguizamo thought he was the hustler, and then he getting caught in a Ponzi scheme, and all of his money got.
Yeah, dude, it's nuts.
In the fight, you got the example of like Don King and Mike Tyson, where, but Mike would have his bonuses was paying Don King's secretary salary and stuff like that. And he would just sign checks. He didn't even know what he was signing. You know what I mean? So it's sad. Yeah, a lot of guys get taken advantage of where, you're lucky in that where you said it, you're a little smarter than your average bear, so you don't get caught that much. But a lot of guys have to give up responsibility for that stuff.
Well, what's interesting, like, I remember Mike Tyson, wasn't it Mike? It was somebody. I probably wasn't Mike. I don't know if he had this much depth back in the day, but somebody said I know that that Don King's gonna take this much money from me, but at least I'm still getting this much. So we knew that Don was gonna be pilfering X amount of percentage off of him, but he was still at least hip to the fact that he's getting more money than he would with anybody else.
Yeah, that makes sense, really.
Do you remember that? Do you remember whoever that was?
I don't remember, but there's a good point to it, though. You know what I mean? If they're getting you more money than anybody else would, at the end of the day, you end up with more money. It is what it is. I don't care if they take 40% or 50% or 10%. If I end up with more money at the end of the day, what's the matter?
Hey, was that movie called Empire? Yeah, Empire. That's what it was. John Leguizamo movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
There you go.
I like it.
You're on a roll, and they put you up against Gabriel Gonzaga, December 13, 2015. The first minute of that fight, he cracked you with the right hand that knocked you back. How concerned were you?
No, he stepped on my foot.
Really?
Yeah, he stepped on my foot. Righty and lefty fighting each other. They're going to step on each other's foot a good portion of the time. So he stepped on my foot. It looked like he knocked me back, but he didn't. He stepped on my foot.
Yeah, you had extra bounce in your step, too. Well, he was pretty flat-footed.
Yeah.
Was this your game plan going into that?
Well, we knew that he was going to try to get a hold of me, right? Like, he had a great knockout in his life with what's his name, Crow Cop. So we knew that he was going to try to get his hands on me and close the distance. So what we wanted to do, we had a shift step, back step hook. So instead of having my left with my straight, we step back and it turns in, use my minimum on my hip swinging backwards and use it as a hook. And that's what I was waiting for him to commit to it, but he was throwing body punches with a straight. So he was saying straights to my body, which I was surprised. And I think he was trying to set up his double with that. And I think he got a little too close and I was able to hit him with that step back hook and that's what dropped him. And then I was able to just kind of go over the top, but I didn't want to grapple with him. So I didn't want to smother him up too tight where if he wanted to roll, I was going to fall into he's like a Granby roll me or something like that. So I sat back and I was punching him and he saw the referee's feet. And I think that he stopped protecting himself and I stopped because I didn't want to get grappled. And then when he popped himself up because he thought the fight was over, I punched him one last time and the ref stopped it.
Henry Hooft was in your corner.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Henry Hooft was in your corner.
Yeah, that might have been. Yeah, because I remember we were warming up on carpet and we remember in the hotel warming up. Chris, were you out there for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Because remember we were warming up in the hotel the day of and we were moving around quite a bit. Because remember wasn't that when I was shoving? Like I was going to shove him, isn't that right?
I think so. I'm trying to get
all. You were moving and you're like the shove keeps throwing me off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was what it was. I was going to shove him. If he got close enough or if I was smothering him up, if I was coming in on him aggressively, once he showed up, I was going to shove him to make him freak out to catch his balance and have to step back. And then I was going to come into a game and start wearing him out. So we had a game plan for that.
I remember that had worked so well against like Derrick Lewis and that field. The phrase is when you got that football, bam, and you hit people, it knocks you back, and it takes you a minute to recover from. And now,
yeah,
you get 3 knockouts in a row at this time. You're the hottest heavyweight in the UFC right now. It's not a champion.
Yeah.
Isn't it strange, like where you came from, like how they had an entire series just to badmouth you and shit on you, with the Ultimate Fighter. And now, a few fights later, you're like, wait a minute, you're in contention for a world title fight.
Yeah. No, it wasn't weird because I'm so cocky that it doesn't surprise me, right? Like I feel like if I'm going to do something, I do it very well, especially back then when I was still bulletproof, It was fun, but also like I had Chris and I mean this, like I'm not to toot your horn, Chris, but like Chris was so accomplished and was so good at all the things Chris had done that I could use him as a sounding board. And there were even situations that I found myself in that Chris hadn't, but he had so much experience and had so much knowledge of the game and what other people had been through that he was able to guide me very, very well and give me advice and mentor me in a lot of ways. And it was very unique. I'm extremely fortunate to have had a person like Chris from the jump, like from the first day I walked into the gym, and they were like, hey, this guy's kind of an asshole, but he can move around a little bit, so let's keep him around. And so they just kind of kept an eye on me, like might have sent me to the corner every once in a while, but they still kept an eye on me.
No, man, it was always good just because, like you said, I remember after the Ultimate Fight, I remember Matt talking to me like, wasn't a good experience on the things. That place sucked, but I remember talking to him afterwards like, hey, man, that's just the thing to get your name out there. Like now, this is what happens from here. After what you do from now is what's going to count, not what happened there. And he came out and killed it, and had a good personality. People liked him immediately after the show was over. Like I said, the show was one thing, but afterwards he had a very quick transition to where he became very fan friendly instantaneously after a couple of fights. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like a 2-year rehab. It was like as soon as he fought, like that shit's over. People know who you are now. Let's see where it goes from here. And then he did great, and people liked him right away.
It was weird to see how many people still talked about the Ultimate Fighter or Tough 10, even at the end of my career. Like people would still be like, hey man, that was my favorite. I used to hate you then or whatever else. It took me so long to like you afterwards. Cool, man. I don't really care. Like love me or hate me, I don't care. You're still going to either watch me lose or watch me win. Right. But you're not going to not watch because I'm too exciting. So it was cool because it got my name out there and got me a lot of marketing money, a lot of sponsorship money early.
So you got 3 knockouts in a row. You go up against Ben Rothwell, June 6, 2016. You guys had a couple common opponents with Brendan Schaub. You lost against him. Ben Rothwell beat him. Gabriel Gonzaga, you beat him. Ben Rothwell lost against him. It's kind of a coin toss type fight.
Well, so I had already sparred Ben several times, and I got the best of Ben a lot in some practice situations, and we had gone pretty hard over at Duke Rufus's. So I felt like I knew Ben pretty well, and I felt like I was going to smoke Ben, and I got so cocky that in the fight, it felt like my hands were magnets. And everything I threw went straight to his face. I mean, I couldn't miss his face, it felt like. I didn't know much about him, like kind of like his durability wise, but I know that we had scrapped and I wasn't concerned about his stand-up at all. And then I was in the fight and I was punching him and I was like, you know what? I'm going to beat him in his own game. I'm going to take him down and maul him. And I tried that blast double and totally missed it. Caught me that 10-finger choke and bang, he got me, buddy. But it's because I got over cocky, got overconfident, and MMA is a funny sport, man. As soon as you get that cocky, you're going to get humbled pretty damn quick.
You know what's funny is so often we see in this sport the people who how many ground and pound Matt Hughes and those guys when they start, I'm going to be a stand-up guy, or whenever these guys are really good at one craft and they say, I'm going to be a stand-up guy or whatever. It's like you always want to do what you don't do the best. Like you want to prove, I work on this, I'm going to be good at everything. I think that's exactly what thought happened there because we never even really talked about much of a takedown. we talked about faking some takedowns to try and keep it. But I mean, Matt was just like, I'm going to take this dude down. I think you always just want to show how good you are on offense. I've worked really hard at these takedowns. I've worked really hard on the ground. I want to showcase it. So when he kind of shot in for the takedown, I remember me and Henry, we didn't say a word for about a minute and a half. We all just kind of looked at each other like, what just happened? You know what I mean? Because Matt couldn't look better on his feet. And then all of a sudden he shot a takedown we never talked about. We're like, we were all kind of dumbfounded, man. It was a bad one.
So remember we were back. We were back at, like, after we caught the bus back to the hotel, and I was like, I can't believe I did that. Like, why on earth did I? Do you remember that? I was like, why did I do that?
That's what we were just like. Nobody thought that was a possibility.
Me either, apparently.
How much bigger than you was Rothwell? Because I know you're a better athlete, but he could move, and he's just massive. Like he cuts.
He wasn't that much bigger. I don't think. I was probably. That's when I was probably cutting weight back then. I was probably 272, 275, something like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I don't think he was that much bigger.
Ben just signed with BKFC. I saw him the other day, man. He's still looking big. As big as ever. He's fighting him for us here soon. He's signed. We got that Greg Hardy just signed. So they were both at that fight. I saw Rothwell kind of eyeballing him. So hell, maybe that's something in the future.
Greg Hardy did sign with you guys for bare knuckle.
We're getting nothing but the best of the old UFC.
Ben's gonna fight bare knuckle.
Yeah.
Get that paycheck, Ben. Go get it.
We'll see what happens. I think he can do really well there, man. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
He's slow though. He's durable, but he's slow. Like
that's not good. That's not good in this sport.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like. I like Ben. I just don't. I don't know if I see his skill set translating to, because you got to have some quick hands, get in and out over there.
But you can also do some grappling.
He takes an ass whooping.
You can do some grappling in here though, so he can push that guy against the ropes and just start, dirty boxing. If he can do some of that, he can push the people around. He's a big, strong guy for that. I mean,
he's strong for sure.
That's what I mean. So he could be a problem if he's smart about how he fights.
I see what you're saying.
Because this is not. We've had a lot of like pure boxers in there. We've had like 3 or 4 world champs, and they have not done well at all.
Really?
No, they haven't.
Well, I mean, it's a completely different sport, right? I mean, it's
exactly
bare knuckle. Being a bare knuckle pugilist is totally different than boxing.
That's what people don't realize. It's funny. So many guys be like, I'm just gonna box. I'm gonna box. Like, all right, we'll see how that works. And then they get like, this is not boxing. They figure out their second fight. Like, no, that's not how it works. Yeah.
When's that MVP fight?
August 20th.
Dude, that's gonna be bananas. I don't know anything about you guys' roster, but I cannot wait to watch that fight.
They just signed Paige Van Zandt's on that same card now in London. That Joe Elmore versus Connor Tierney. Man, this card is gonna be sick. It's gonna be the best one we've ever had by far.
I want to go to that card. I'll even endure London traffic to go to that fight.
I can't wait.
Hey, remember when we went to Bellator and we had to fight Ollie Thompson over there? And we're like, I don't really want to go to the O2 that early. We're like, all right, just show up whenever. All right, sounds great. Hey, were you there for that fight?
I had that Jake Shields grappling match the same day.
That's right.
Watched your fight on the.
And Henry couldn't go. That's right. You nor Henry could go that.
And then that grappling thing, yeah. So.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that, dude. I remember because that's when I forgot to warm up.
Forgot to warm up. Yeah. I wasn't there. We wouldn't let that happen if we were there. So that's
I forgot to warm up. Huh?
Was Ed Jones there?
Ed was there. Ed and Coach Pat.
Okay.
Ed and Coach Pat. And I just completely forgot to warm up. That's it.
Hey, you can just tell like where you are mentally in your fight game at that point. It's like, oh, hold on. Wait.
Checked out.
I was supposed to warm up. Yeah.
Man, I'm sorry, go ahead.
With Ben Rothwell, we're going to get to Ollie Thompson. With Ben Rothwell, he was 34-9 at the time, ranked number 9 in the world. And he was the underdog going into that fight.
Yeah, he should have been. Like, I should have won. But, like, if my head nuts, she'd been my uncle. Like, like Ben's durable. Ben's smart. Ben knows what he's doing. But also, like I like Ben. If I see him now, I'll talk to him for sure. I have no problem with him. But Ben knew that was a very dangerous fight for him. Like, I was. At that time, I was pretty damn dangerous. But like, hey man, sometimes you need a little dose of humility sometimes, probably. I got it in 10 fingers.
What was it like working out with Pat Barry?
I love Pat. Pat's a great dude. Pat is a grinder. He works hard. He's got a great work ethic. He's got a great personality to lighten any mood. But he also is very good at keeping it serious. He's a good coach. He's really good at showing you what you're good at. And then he's very good at showing you what you're not. And he's a great dude. I care a tremendous amount about him.
Yeah. He's got an interesting career too. He fought in a tournament. We've been trying to track that guy down for months. He's impossible. Yeah. He fought a tournament where he was supposed to win like $100,000. And the Japanese like mafia at payday just go, wait, we're going to mail you your check. Here's a free t-shirt, here's a sweatshirt. Kicked him out of the room and he never even got paid.
I believe that.
Yeah. He's got an interesting career. From there, January 17, 2016, you took Ronda Rousey's right-hand man, Travis Browne, in the main event, UFC Fight Night.
You know, it's weird. Like, that's another one I knew, excuse me, I knew I was going to whoop his ass. I knew he didn't take a punch very well. We had such a good series. It was a jab, step off to the left, straight, step back, straight hook. And I knew it was going to land. I knew because he bails out with his head over his heels like Stephan Struve did. Every tall guy does. And we knew it was going to land. I knew when it was going to land, I was going to kill him. And I dropped him in the first on something. I can't remember. And when he poked me in my eye, remember when he poked me in my eye, it was like, it was bad, but it wasn't nearly as bad as the second one was. And then when the second one happened, I remember I couldn't see anything. I was double vision bad. I was fighting with one eye closed. I was trying to blink it out or whatever else, and I couldn't see very well. When I stopped the fight, the ref wouldn't let me he wouldn't tell me what was going on. The only person I could talk to was the doc. The doc didn't really have that much. I was like, I just need my 5 minutes. And he's like, no, you can't have your 5 minutes. Remember that, Chris?
Yeah.
He was like, no.
Why wouldn't he give it to you?
I don't know. Because I stopped the fight, right? Because I stopped it and the ref didn't stop it. Isn't that what it was or something? But they didn't explain it much. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what the repercussions were. And then I didn't know what was happening. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it, man. Fuck it. I'll go out of my shield. Fuck it. And I already knew I was going to be leaving the UFC. So it was a situation fuck it, dude. Let the show must go on. How you going to let your last fight in the UFC end in something like that? All right,
so Travis Browne, he's finished 15 of his 17 fights, 13 by KO. He's got 6 post-fight bonuses. You were trying to time him. You were trying to time his movements and you would kind of rush in and he would open finger just kind of to stall you. Part of his game plan was to gouge people in their eyes.
No, I don't think he's cheap like that. I think he's a dick, but I don't think he's cheap like that. I think that he didn't know how to handle fighting going backwards. Most strikers can't fight going backwards, right? Most strikers can't strike going backwards. Kickers can't kick going backwards. So he didn't know how to defend himself because he was always so used to having an intimidating presence. But I'm a pressure fighter. So since I'm a pressure fighter, that means you're going to take steps backwards. I'm most likely not. And he didn't handle that very well. So when he did, he freaked out and all he could do was extend his arm because remember I said he went head over heels. You go head over heels, you have no athleticism. So all you can do, you can't move left or right. All you can do is extend your arm out to stop somebody from coming in.
Why didn't you know you were leaving the UFC?
Because I already had a meeting with Lorenzo Fertitta. And I went in there, they offered me, I think I was at 30-30. And I've always been on main events or main cards. I can't remember what my record was at the time. I think I was maybe 9-4 or something like that. 8 wins by knockout. I can't remember what it was. Blah, 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 blah. Right. I'd never been knocked out or whatever. I don't remember what it was. And they offered me I think it was 37-37. And I told Joe Silva, I was like, hey, if this is what you guys think I'm worth, you can go fuck yourself. How dare you call me up with this bullshit fucking offer? And I was so pissed. And
what were you expecting?
I don't know, sure as fuck wasn't 37 or 37. I'll tell you that much. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't that.
Did your manager not take that phone call?
No, I handled a lot of my business myself. So then I didn't know. I think this is when I was probably starting to work with Matt Apteker as in like a lawyer on retainer. And then I get a phone call a little bit later. I think it's from Lorenzo, and Lorenzo was like, "I understand you have a problem with our offer." And I was like, "Yeah, if it's 37 and 37, that's legitimate. Fuck yeah, I have a problem with that offer." And why? I was like, "Well, do you want to talk about that now, or do you want me to come out there and handle it face to face?" And he goes, "Well, come on out face to face. Let's talk about it." So I buy my own ticket. I pay for my own hotel. I go out there and I go to my own meeting with Lorenzo, and I have just a stack of information. This is when that book called Fightnomics came out. Do you guys remember this a little while ago? Well, a book called Fightnomics came out, and it was like an accountant, bean counter, blah, blah, blah. Smart ass dude, had such a quantifiable database of numbers and positions. And when you fought on your card, what your position on the card was, how many times you've been televised, how many bonuses you got, and took like this interesting position on what your value should be worth media-wise and presentation-wise and sponsorship-wise. So all this is going on, I reached out to dude and I was like, "Hey man, let's have a conversation about some stuff. And this is where I think I'm at." Now the bad part is this is before the Fertittas sold the UFC. So there are two different purses. There's one purse that they turn into the commission, and there's another purse is what they give you in the locker room afterwards. So they have to notify the commission or publish what that commission check is. So say if they're going to make it $48,000, but then after you fight, you go back there and you get a check for $340,000. So you get like you're fighting for 388 or whatever the hell the number is, right? So like whatever that number is, they give you the real check back there, but they don't have to relieve it because on the contract it says you're fighting for 48, and then on the bottom side of the contract it says, but in the locker room you also be given this discretionary check of this much, blah blah blah. So the Fightnomics guy never had a chance to really know what the purse was, but he knew the value of the position which you were at, and he could quantify it. So I went in there and I told him I was at 30 and 30, and I told him I wanted exponentially higher, multiple times higher. And Lorenzo's like, "No." He's like, "Why are you?" He's like, "So what?" He's like, "Let me get this straight." So let me get this straight. He's like, "So you're in here, you don't have an attorney, and you're in here with me, just talking with me straight out." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Because I know I'm right. I know my value, and I know what my position's worth and my personality." I was like, "So I need this much money." It's like, "That's what I need. I don't need to." If I'm one of your biggest names and I'm always I'm on the third side, I'm either the curtain jerker for the main event because you guys want people to pay attention, or for the main card, or I'm middle to keep people paying attention, or I'm the co-main or main, then you guys know exactly where I'm at. I'm never the forgotten about fight on the main card. And every one of my fights have been main card. Every one of my fights have been televised. I was like, "So if you guys want me to go through all this information and quantify it and blah, 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 we can do that. Or we can just talk." And he goes, "Let's just talk." So he goes, "I'm not going to give you this much money." He's like, "But what I will do is I'll double it, and I'll give you 70 and 70. So they more than doubled it, right? They beat it by like what, 110%, 120, 125%, something like that. Quick math, son, Purdue. And then he goes, "But I'll double it. I'll give you 70 and 70. And this is for me to fight Travis." And I was like, "No, like what I want is a flat purse. I don't fight safe. So if you want to reward me for fighting safe, then give me a split purse. But reward me for fighting the way I fight, and just give me money so I don't have to worry about budgeting my life. I know exactly how much I'm going to get every single time, and that way I can set my life easier. I'll even take less money than like if you're going to tell me I'll give you 100 and 100 as a split. No, give me 160 as a flat, and I'll take 160 as a flat, just because I know exactly where I'm going to be at." And Lorenzo's like, "No, we can't do that." And I was like, "All right, then we just don't have a deal, and that was it. And we were cool about it. But then we started talking about USADA. And he's like, "You're one of the last people that won't sign the USADA." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I am. And I won't sign it either." And he's like, "Well, why will you not sign it?" And I said, "Because it's a hustle. It's a scam." He goes, "Well, how is it a scam? Explain it to me." And I told him, because you guys, unless you guys drop test every single person on the UFC roster within 2 days, right? Like not 2 days from that point, but 2 days, you guys get every single person on the UFC roster drop tested at that point and test for every single steroid and everything else, then it'll never be an honest test. And he goes, well, what do you mean? So you guys are doing the biological passport, right? What the biological passport does is it makes a marker all the time at where my testosterone and my, the chick test, what's it called? The chick estrogen. It makes a marker where my estrogen is and where my testosterone is at all times. So if I'm good at taking steroids and I pace it out, right, then I'm always going to be roughly at the same position because I know my time frame. I have a good register. So I can be elevated on all kinds of testosterone. And if I never flutter from top to bottom too much within certain position, then you're never going to know, and I can run gear for the rest of my life. And I can be cheating my whole way through. I was like, and if I don't, then I'm not going to do it. It's like, but that's the only reason I'm not going to sign it until you guys do something like that. And he was like, you know what? I've never heard that argument before. He's like, so he brought that drug czar up, that Mike guy, whatever his name was.
No, it's come on, the Golden Snitch is what his nickname is. Yeah,
that dude. They brought the snitch up. So
who's a coward? That guy's a coward.
Yeah, whatever his name is. Yeah, he's the dude's a hoe. But anyways, so they brought me down there, and then we had like Lorenzo was like, "Hey man, I want you to hear this position on it." So I told him the same thing, and then dude was asking me all kinds of questions, and we were talking about like,
he's asking you questions that you like, specific ones that you wouldn't have the answers to. He never tests for EPO. It's the same guy that dug through the garbage of Lance Armstrong 5 years after his last race just to try to catch him, and then go and say, well, John Jones isn't using designer steroids. He's pulsating. He's full of shit. He's full of shit.
Yeah, so that dude. And so that was my last fight. That's what it was. Like with Travis. It was cool. Like I obviously wish I have a lasting mark from it right here. You see it right there?
And Matt, one.
Right.
Man. So you left the UFC. Did you and Lorenzo, when you guys parted ways, did you shake hands, or was there any?
Lorenzo, I'm sure if I ever saw him, it would be cool. Like I've got no problem with Lorenzo or Dana. I like Dana.
Hey, I got a question for you. So now you go to Bellator, or did you have like some type of negotiations or a figure position? But like, were you already flirting with that, or were you already out of the UFC? Because like that might affect how much money you get from Bellator too if you were already cut by them. No. How'd that work out?
But Bellator needed talent. Bellator needed names, and they needed heavyweights, and they needed personalities. So I was all the above. I was a heavyweight, I was a name, I was a talent, and I was a personality. So I was the golden egg for them. And they were just trying to remember it was Phil Davis, and then it was Ben Henderson, and then it was me. And Ben doesn't have the personality. He had the name, he had the fighting style. He came out and he lost his first two. So Ben lost some thunder pretty quickly there. And then after that, then when I came, it was an easy negotiation. I was like, listen, I want this much money. And it was more than I asked for at the UFC. Like, because I was ready to stop. I was ready to be done. Didn't matter to me. And I want flat purse, and I want this, and I want that. So I gave them like this long list of demands, and they met them.
Man, I remember when this happened. I remember thinking for the first time, Bellator went out and they were signing some good guys. They went and got Matt, like I said, Ben Henderson, Canadian guy, I can't remember. Anyway, I remember thinking, man, they could actually do something because they're actually paying what the UFC won't. And I was like, that was the last time I ever thought that Bellator had a chance to do anything. After that, they kind of dropped the ball. The UFC actually started paying, and I don't know if it was different Fox deals or what exactly happened, ESPN, but UFC started paying. I don't know if it's because of stuff like this, and then Bellator's never recovered.
Well, you know what it was too, Chris? It was that Bellator was always afraid to carry the torch. They never wanted to be risque or aggressive or assertive. Dana was fearless about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And like whatever the decision that had to be made was, Dana would make it. And Dana would say yes. And when it would come down to it, Viacom and Coker would wait to see how Dana's decision went and what the repercussions were or the rewards were.
Yeah.
Then they would try to do something. So they were always reactive all the time.
I had a weird conspiracy theory at one point, and just thinking, there's no way Coker isn't working for the UFC. Some of his moves were just so awful.
Well, it was an interesting time over there, and like it very quickly got me. I didn't mind the UFC when I was in the UFC. That's my daughter. Hello, girl. How you doing? Hi. I didn't mind the UFC when I was in it. I didn't mind fighting when I was in it. But I got jaded quickly when I was with Bellator.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So they gave you your money, but does it feel like a B-class show now that you've been, coming there from the UFC? Does it have, or do they match up like in everything?
No,
really?
it was Chris. I think you can co-sign on this. It was definitely a sideshow. It was a spectacle compared to what the UFC was. The UFC is such a well-oiled machine. It was cool. I didn't mind it. But there were just things that in the UFC, you always know when you're going to fight. You always know. Like if you have Burt, you have whoever else, you know exactly what you're trying to. You got 35 minutes. You got 28 minutes. You got this much. You got that much. You always know what you're going. Hey, it's time for us to get warmed up here because of this. Bellator will literally throw you in a room, and then they'll come up. Hey, you're fighting in 2 minutes. You're out. Like Chris, you would agree to that?
It reminded me of a time machine where you go back and you're going to fight UFC 18, you know? I was you're going to fight 2005 or 2002 in some house show, you know what I mean? So it was, they had a lot of the theatrical stuff, but a lot of the infrastructure wasn't there. So yeah, it reminded me man, this is not what I thought was going to happen. You know what I mean? You're you're number two. And that's when you start going, man, there's levels of this stuff. And UFC is
so
on an island by themselves.
Yeah. And then it was interesting. And then another time, just to think about this too, when the COVID stuff happened, that the UFC is putting on fights and having a great time, and they're gaining such a massive position of authority over Bellator right now, because Bellator was still kind of in the hunt at that time. And then once all that stuff
at that time, they never had a TV deal. They lost their TV deal. And the first 3 or 4 months, they didn't even have anything on their schedule.
And you're owned by, you're talking about with the COVID time.
Yeah.
Nothing, dude, nothing. And they just let themselves sit there and lose everything. And you're owned by Viacom. They didn't do anything. And they were being put on CBS Sports over here and this unaccessible channels. And you're like, dude, what the hell is going on? You're in Spike now, and then they Paramount, and then they rebranded it to this. Okay, cool. Let's make a big spectacle of it. And then all of a sudden it goes off of this, and you can't find it. Now it's on this thing, and now it's on Hulu or whatever this thing was. And dude, what the hell is going on here? You're owned by Viacom, and you can't even find the damn fights. What's happening here?
I'll throw one more in there, or you got to sit 6 months while they go off and do some sideshow in Italy or something like that. Kickboxing in Italy. And then there's a lot of that.
Well, yeah, for sure. And then on top of that, then when they did that dumbass heavyweight tournament, it wasn't a heavyweight tournament. It was the biggest names on their roster tournament that their stars would let people fight in. Fedor wouldn't let Karatanov fight in it because he didn't want Karatanov to fight he didn't want to fight another Russian, possibly. What's his name? Rampage wouldn't let Czech Congo fight in it because he didn't want to take a chance of fighting Czech Congo. So then they were like, okay, and they didn't want names that wouldn't be a draw. Who's that one dude who got staph infection and they wouldn't let him fight? He was on our card. It's supposed to be tough. I can't remember his name is. Javi something, some Javi guy. He was supposed to fight. He was a tough ass dude. He's the dude who knocked out Karatanov.
Yeah,
that guy. So anyways, Javi Ayala, that's him. Okay. So Javi Ayala's a tough ass dude. He would have been great, a great fight for the heavyweight tournament, and he's exciting. But they weren't big enough names, so then they invite 4 All-American collegiate wrestlers. Why are you gonna have collegiate wrestlers go fight heavyweights? It's a totally different animal, completely different breed. But it was the biggest names they had, and then I held out. So I just beat Fedor in Madison Square Garden, and in 71 seconds, and I got a really good payday off of that. And then they do this stupid biggest name tournament, and I held out. I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. We're gonna announce this thing tomorrow, Matt. I don't care. I'm not gonna do it. It doesn't make any sense. I'm taking 3 steps backwards. I'm not gonna do it. I think I was supposed to fight Rampage at the time, and
that's a fight, especially after the Ultimate Fighter. I was shocked that you two never met up.
Well, we wanted to. Rampage and I were friends, and we were like, "Hey, man, it'll be a great job." But Rampage knew I was a tough fight, and at that point in his career, he wasn't really looking for a tough fight. But our mouthpieces, we'd have sold the fight. It would have been a hell of a time. And we're buddies now. Like we talk about it all the time. Like that would have been dope to have that situation, but the fight would have been a bitch, you know. But what we figured is that, and then once I was like, no, I'm not going to do it unless you give me Fedor money. Well, we're not going to give you Fedor money. We're going to sit you out for an entire year, whatever else. I'm like, listen, what you guys can do is run your stupid tournament, invite another light heavyweight wrestler, fuck, invite CB Dalloway in there if you want to. Doesn't matter to me. Like, bring and finish out your tournament. I'll sit out for whatever. I'll fight Chet Congo for the vacant tournament, for the vacant title. Then I'll be heavyweight champ. And then whoever wins this stupid tournament you guys are doing, they can fight me and we can unify the belt. Boom, there you go. Absolutely not. We're not going to do that, whatever else, blah, blah, blah. All right, well, cool, fuck it. I'll just sit out then. No problem.
Yo, Matt, you're teaching them how to be a promoter at that point.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's everything you just said right there. It's you're writing a storyline. Like, you got to sell people. That's what you just did. You just laid out an entire storyline of something that they should have followed.
I just beat the greatest heavyweight of all time in Madison Square Garden during fucking Putin and Trump. I'm putting on my New York Giants jersey and I'm talking mad shit to the rest of the world. And I'm talking to Donald Trump in the middle of this shit here. And then you want me to take 3 steps back and fight a fucking fat vagrant who's almost impossible to knock out? Fuck you.
Matt, you know, it's amazing to me how when you look at this, you think these people know a lot about, but then I get to look at them like, I know so many better, you know, matchmakers who really understand what's going on, like how to develop fighters, how to make storylines, how to win these. It's not just putting on the best fight, it's setting up fights for later and understand the whole storyline. Chael Sonnen's a master of it, but these people have no idea what they're doing. They're in the position, but they don't really.
You got to watch pro wrestling.
I'm amazed. My head wants to blow up half the time. I'm like, how are you in this position? You know nothing about the fight game, in my opinion.
It was weird, man. And then so I told them I was going to sit out, and I told them I was fine with it. Cool. And then they called up at like 1 or 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they're like, fine, you know what? We'll give you this. I know it was almost Fedor money, but I was like, all right, cool. I can't say no to that. But then they switched up the matchups, and they gave me Roy. And then I was like, you know what, cool, whatever. That's a big ass payday. I'm fine with it, no problem at all. So then they switch up the fights. I beat Roy, and then they give me Bader. And they give me Bader because they know I'm not a wrestler. So that's what it was. That was exactly their plan. Like, they were like, oh, cool, you're going to sit out? We're going to make this the most miserable experience for you. So they gave me my check and I got a flat check, big ass flat check. I took that check and was like, hey, thanks for playing. That was a stupid ass matchup. Hope your fans were excited about it. Walked right out of that place. Remember that, Chris?
Oh yeah. That was, I mean, you just knew, you know how he's going to fight you. He's not going to try and do one thing interesting. He can't. I mean, he's smart. If I'm coaching him, I'm telling him to fight you the way he did. Because what are you going to do? Put on a good show or you're going to get beat. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, are they going to survive? And then he knocked out Fedor, and he's heavyweight champ still, right? He's done it. Bader did a great damn job. And I'm proud of Bader for what he's done. And he fought it the best, smartest way he could. And even after the fight, like, I was so bored and I was frustrated. He was like, dude, I'm so sorry I fought you like that, but I had to. He was like, you're too dangerous. You're damn right. But that's why you shouldn't invite a light heavyweight All-American wrestler into a heavyweight tournament. Doesn't make any sense for heavyweights.
Yeah.
But things happen. So that happened. And then after that time, my time for Bellator was marked. I knew it because I sat out.
Well, here, Bader was the champ at that point, and he held him hostage. So they were getting beat up by everybody contractually.
And Dave Martin is no punk. Dave Martin will go straight for the nuts. He is a gangster.
Yeah. In fact, like, when the COVID was going on and we were doing our little podcast, I'm on record multiple times stating, if you can't do an event during COVID, you're not a real MMA organization.
For sure.
I mean, and that's it. That's it.
Sure. And look what
let's talk about your entry into Bellator. I know we're taking up a lot of your time, but Carl Saman.
Yeah, I'm missing my kid time right now, so I got to get back a little bit. But
real quick. So during the Charles Saman Tafa fight, had the Ollie Thompson bout had already been discussed because it was 3 weeks later?
No.
That's surprising. So you did that right in the ring.
Yeah, in the ring. And what's funny is I didn't really remember it much. Like, I was like, I don't remember because like I remember a little bit of the fight and I remember a little bit of the interview. But no, that was like, I think they told me like right after the fight, hey, are you cool bringing this up because of this situation? I was like, and I was kind of loopy. I was like, sure, sounds great. And then there you go.
All right, Fedor, February 18, 2017, you withdrew day of the fight.
Dude, tell him, Chris. Tell him what happened.
Man, it was the worst of all time. We're there, and Matt he had kidney stones, and he keeps trying to, like, move around and work out, and then, like, his sides and such pain. We're like, man.
How many days in advance did we know I had a stone?
Do what?
Remember, I started passing that stone on Wednesday.
Yeah. So, I mean, he didn't you have like 13 stones in there or something weird?
I had 28 or 29.
Yeah, he had a bunch of kidney stones, man. So
I started passing that stone on Wednesday. I can't take any painkillers because of the commission in California.
Yeah,
I can't take anything, nothing. So I'm passing the stone for 4 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm so blocked up, I can't pee anymore. I'm bloated because I'm holding so much water. So so finally I like and Bellator knows it. Bellator's coming in. Remember they went to the store for us. I knew what were going on. Hey, how you feeling? They got us like cranberry juice. They got us apple cider vinegar.
We're at the hospital trying to do it, and it's like they're still sitting there waiting, hoping the fight can happen that night.
Chris and I were like, hey, listen, dude, you got about 45 seconds of adrenaline. He's like, so ding ding, just fucking go. He's like, if we're gonna do it.
That was a legitimate talk. We said, man, I mean, because Matt obviously is going to get paid today. Didn't want to cancel his big fight. We're like, dude, you have two options. We got to cancel the fight, or you're going to have about a minute to knock him out. What do you want? I mean, and eventually the Bellator kind of came in like, man, we can't do that. I mean, they just kind of knew that.
I was so bloated up that they said I was holding 7 liters of water. I think it was like my body couldn't get rid of it, and like they would touch my body and it would like leave edema marks. Like, and my kidneys were so sore, and they were like, dude, we can't do this. Like, even Chris was like, dude, he's like, if he hits you once, you might explode.
Yeah, it's over. I mean, we were just like, it was bad.
When did you pass it? How far after? How soon after?
The flight home. Remember, Chris, in Dallas?
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, then he had like 29 of them still in the system. It was just a bad little
They went through, like, I even told Bellator, as a sign of faith, first of all, Bellator didn't pay me at all for that. Didn't give me any conciliatory money at all, none. And to make it better on Bellator or for Bellator, I went to the hospital. I don't have insurance because you can't get health insurance if you're a fighter, if you don't have like a real job, your wife didn't have a real job, can't get health insurance. So I went there and paid for a surgery to get all my kidney stones removed, $34,000 in cash. Thanks. Had them all removed just so Bellator would have the confidence to put me back on the main event card.
Holy shit. That's nuts. All right, you fought Fedor. It was a double knockdown in the beginning of that fight.
Yeah.
That was one of the craziest things in MMA. It went viral.
It was pretty dope. It was pretty cool.
What was it like leading up to fighting Fedor?
Well, it didn't really mean much because I didn't grow up watching fighting. So Fedor was just a dude, just a guy. Like, I mean, if I was fighting Barry Sanders, I'd fucking have a heart attack, right? But Fedor was cool. Sounds great, man. He did some crazy stuff, man. Look at that time he slammed that guy. Awesome.
Kevin Randall. When he got slammed by Kevin Randall, man.
Yeah. There you go. And like, I mean, it didn't mean much to me. Cool. Sounds great. I remember being across the cage and he was like slapping his face, getting ready, and I was like, all right, let's go fight. Like, all right, great. Like the magnitude of the moment wasn't significant to me. It was just cool. Sounds great. Awesome. Let's go get paid.
That energy in that building must have been insane.
It was pretty dope. And then after I won, and somebody threw my Giants jersey in there. It was actually my boy, Damon Tudalik. And I didn't even know it was his. He like somehow got close enough and threw my jersey in there. And then I put it on and it was like, let's go Big Blue. It was dope. It was a cool moment.
Wow. What was, we're wrapping up.
Russians in the audience? A lot of Russians in the audience in New York?
There's a lot of Russians in New York in general. So the hell yeah. It was weird. After I beat him, I started getting all these death threats. Like they're going to rape my kids and kill my family. And Like they were like telling like what like the route my daughter takes to school. They're telling me the name of her school, her teachers, and all that stuff. It's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Were they legit? Like, was it like legit information?
They're crazy Russians, man. But I'll tell you this much: like once Fedor heard about it, apparently Fedor like put something out. Was like, "Don't you fucking dare do that again!" It's like to the masses, and then I never got him again.
Solid guy.
Was he a gentleman?
Fedor's a great dude, man. Great dude. And I heard that he wanted to fight me in Russia as his last fight. And I was like, hell yeah, no problem at all. But Bellator wouldn't let it happen. So he fought Tim Johnson instead.
What was Mike Van Arsdale like in the practice room over at the Blackzillians?
Coach Van's a trip, dude. Coach Van is singularly athletic in a way that only he's athletic. And it like, he almost doesn't understand that other people can't do what he could do. And so he would show people like these crazy, like chimpanzees swinging in a forest kind of moves, like long, gaping, swinging moves, ankle picks from up here and dropping down. And there's no way that anybody else could even start to do those. And he would do it at 50 years old and just couldn't understand how it didn't work. It was good, man. It was cool. It was a trip.
Hey, man, we gotta let Matt go. He's doing the family thing. Hey, man, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much, man, and awesome stuff. I love it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, hey guys, always, man. Thanks so much, man.
Hey, the Lights Out Podcast here. Yet another deep dive in the books. We had appearance from the big guy, Chris Lytle, making an appearance, and that made the podcast all the more fun. Obviously, Chris and Matt, pretty special relationship, and we got to be a part of it, Mike. So thrilled.
Miguel, Mount Punchmore, your four favorite guys that we've interviewed, Matt Mitrione, Ensign, NUA, those two have secured their spots on Mount Punchmore, in my opinion.
I'm
like
okay
that?
with that. I'm okay.
You like
with
that?
A couple of good choices there. We got into the nitty-gritty. I like that Mitrione's stories are so wide ranging. Like he'll talk about the business end. Like he remembers, some fighters say, I don't remember when I got paid. And you gotta, some of them are telling the truth. Some are being a little coy because they don't want to share that. That's perfectly okay. But Mitrione just shares it. He's just like, yeah, they offered me 37. I'm done with that. I wanted 3 times that. So that level of detail, along with, hey guys, hold on, you got to see this picture of this place, the wide range, like the business end and the fun end. So yeah, Mitrione, Mike, he checks off a lot of boxes.
I know you like to use that, and you're correct. The thing about Mitrione is he's got a nickname named, Meathead. He might be one of the more intelligent people we've ever had on this podcast.
Yeah, I think he does play to that. I think he likes, like you're absolutely right. The nickname is not appropriate. Like, I guess that's what. So, but I think he likes to play to it too. So if you don't really know, you might think he's a big jockey meathead, but once we got a foot in the door with Lytle and stuff, you get to see, the guy. And here's the other part: the fun stories, the business end stories, and but the in the ring memory too, where he talks about his specific strategy for each guy and how, in this particular case, I was working on, I want to kick Struve high, for example, like that type of stuff. Like it's the holy grail of interviews. He doesn't miss a beat on anything. And sometimes
that's why we're here.
He covers all 3 in the same sentence.
Yeah, that's why we're here. Getting little tidbits of information like that, stuff like that would get lost, and it's so important, like to us, MMA historians. So September 24th, I'm in Willowbrook, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. I'm hosting Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro. If you like gi and or no gi jiu-jitsu, please sign up at ajptour.com. And I know we've got kind of I'm not going to say we've got a decent sized following here in Chicago. Please stop up there, say hello. I'd like to meet you guys. Miguel, what about yourself?
Got the interview in the books. August 12th, I'm booking Anthony Pettis' fighting event on the UFC's Fight Pass. So putting a couple of fighters on the main card there. Should have something to announce in the next couple of days.
Good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing this.
greatly, greatly appreciated. And we'll see you next week.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.